Greetings, Internet, especially the Writer's Corner of Twitter. Today, I am joined here on Coffee Books Repeat by Brian at Darth Chair on the Twitters. And he is an author and the creator of the Follower Games, perhaps the thing that most of you know him for. Now, before I turn it over to Brian and let him talk about some of the things that he's been doing, I want to point out that I posted a link on Twitter. You can go there to the YouTube channel and you can follow, you can comment, whatever you need to there. And of course, I'll also be paying attention to Twitter. So any questions you've got for Brian along the way, feel free to ask and we'll pass them along and try to get them answered. Now, in the meantime, though, Brian, you are not just a creator of the Follower Games, a connector of people, creator and destroyer of realms. You are also an author.
Yes, I am.
So, what do you write? Educate us.
Basically, I mean, I think that the main thing now is that I'm writing a lot of horror stories. You might have seen that I'm a co-creator of a new podcast that's coming out called The Grey Rooms. And that podcast is, we had just released for Memorial Day weekend a promotional episode called Falling. And I have about 4 stories in the podcast. My first one will start November 30th of this year. And it's a World War I piece. And basically it's about the rats in the trenches. One of the things I was thinking about in World War I, you think of all the horrors, like the gas and all the things that were going on, the trench warfare. But one of the horrible things that they had to endure while in the trenches were boredom. Because it actually was a lot of times they just sat around, waiting for something to happen. But the other thing were these rats. These things were the size of cats. There were millions of them. And so when I started doing research on this, because I'm an American and they don't really teach that much about World War I in school.
No, not even when I was in high school, they didn't really talk much about it.
Yeah, it's sort of that, you'd think from the American standpoint, they'd say, oh, well, we came in, we conquered, we won the war, it was great, but no, in this situation, these people there were firsthand accounts where people would see these rats actually run off with the hands of people. Corpses that just got buried in the trenches because they couldn't really dispose of the bodies well. So these rats would just go in and gnaw off their appendages and run off with them. And they'd chew into their sacks to get food. And they couldn't shoot them because that was, they needed to conserve their ammunition.
Waste of ammo, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So they had to use their bayonets to try to stab these things. And, you try to stab a living animal. That's got to be kind of tricky. So...
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've already... I'm sorry if you decided to listen to this while you're eating dinner. Apologies.
So what happens, man. Horror writer. So I have that going on. I have 3 other stories. The other one is going to be about a little girl who is in a coma for most of the story, trying to will herself to... come out of that situation that she's in. It's a horror story, so yeah, you might not want to get your hopes up for her, but this is I kind of wrote it to be a very emotional piece. One of the things about the Grey Rooms is that we have voice actors who have recorded audiobooks, have done commercials, have done TV shows and video games and things like that. So when you hear these voice actors, I've listened to the dialogue from that story. It's called White Light Heaven, and I had listened to it when I was running in the park one day, and tears were just coming down. Were just streaming down my eyes. I mean, it was beautiful, terrible, but really beautiful. So it was. I never had listened to any of my stories been read professionally before. So that was definitely a treat, and I can't wait for people to listen to that. Another story I have is called Fairy Tale. It's a modern day version of Red Riding Hood. Protagonist is the wolf, and he basically kind of, I don't want to ruin the story, but I would say that it's a pretty terrible story. Typically, if you're expecting the woodsman to come in and save Granny and Little Red Riding Hood, you're probably not going to see that happen. So
understand, it's more like it's more like going back to Grimm's fairy tales.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. You know, Grimm's fairy tales, Rapunzel, the prince falls down and goes blind because there's thorns all over his eyes and things. Yeah. It's, you know, you gotta love that. I took a Russian fairy tales course in college one time, and those stories and the Russian spirits and things like that were just insane. You know?
Oh yeah, any of the old stuff, you're just like, wait a minute. What happened now?
Yeah.
When I heard the what actually happened with Sleeping Beauty, I was like,
yeah,
I can see why we edited that. It makes sense to me.
Well, and you know, they taught us things that you never think of when you watch Disney's Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
You think, wow, this is a great story. What was it? Is the tale as old as time or something? But
right.
you know, and you think that's cute. You know, this guy, you know, he's a beast and then he becomes a prince. But really what they're saying is they taught these stories sort of to get little girls to accept that they're going to marry the ugly butcher down the street. But he might be this foul person who doesn't, you know, maybe he's not the prince that you have dreamed of marrying. But
he tamed the beast.
Yeah, he might become a nice guy inside. You know, he might be all right. So it's really kind of dark and twisted when you think of these little life lessons that they were really supposed to teach.
Especially when you realize that eventually that gave us Twilight.
Yeah, that's like, true. And
oh no, if only the original creator of that fairy tale could have seen what his work would lead to.
Sparkle.
We would get sparkling vampires, and then someone would write a fanfic based on it called 50 Shades of Grey. He probably would have just stopped right then.
Yeah, well, you know, when you think of Vlad the Impaler, if he probably saw what would come, you know, from that with the whole Dracula, you know, story, and then
like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe not the spikes.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, who knows? That guy was impaling like thousands of people all over the place. So he might have thought it was, you know, he might be listening to heavy metal today and all this other stuff. Who knows? But but the thing is, how do you go from that to sparkling? You know, I mean, how would he feel about that?
I'm guessing he would disapprove.
I'm thinking he would disapprove.
I mean, I disapprove, and I've never impaled a single person.
Yeah.
That anyone knows about. Anyway, well,
hey, you don't want to go and share that information.
Oh, right, yeah, that's right. This is live and it's on the internet, therefore it's forever. So, okay, so the Grey Rooms. Now this is when is the Grey Rooms actually starting? Is it starting in November, or your stuff is coming
officially episode 1 will start November 30th, and it's a bi-weekly podcast. It's Jason Wilson is the sound editor and creator of it. He brought me aboard as a co-creator. Mm-hmm. And what I'm working on, basically, so yeah, it's an anthology podcast. So bi-weekly, there'll be a different story by a different author.
Okay.
So there's 9 other authors outside of myself. There's also a central storyline, which is kind of mentioned in the trailers. There's a guy named Raymond. And what happens is he wakes up, and he's in a room that's basically like a prison cell, kind of a concrete floor. There's one light bulb that's kind of just, sitting. There's no cover on it or anything. It's just attached to the ceiling. There's maybe like a table or something, but it's very plain. And there's a door. It's only one way out. Okay.
Dare I say the room is gray?
It is most likely very gray.
Okay.
Maybe some neon pink specks on the walls. I don't know. But you go through the door, and it's the exact same room. The door behind you disappears, and there's 2 more doors. And basically the prompt now is he has to choose a door. One of these doors is going to be his salvation. One of these is going to be his damnation. And so if he doesn't pick a door, then one will be chosen for him. Obviously, that doesn't go well when you tick off the ominous voice that kind of, talks to you from wherever it's coming from. So,
of course.
So that's the idea. And throughout these 13 episodes, this voice and this man I kind of explore this relationship that they have in this situation, because ultimately the voice does kind of interact with him in certain ways, whether it's mocking or trying to help him feel better. But ultimately, whatever door this guy chooses, he ends up kind of quantum leaping, so to speak, into the story.
Okay.
He's suffering and feeling, and basically he's along for the ride for the protagonist of each story. So he can't make changes in the story. He can't do anything. The story isn't going to say, and Raymond thought this. It doesn't do that. It's just the author's story.
Okay.
But when the character dies, because all the main characters in the Grey Rooms dies, it's not a spoiler. We just let everybody know that ahead of time. This is one of those serious things, He wakes right back up into the Grey Rooms again. And he remembers everything he dealt with. I even discussed with Jason, maybe putting a little souvenir in the room, after his death. So just kind of like taunt him a little bit, so if the guy died by, I don't know, being a giant boulder falling on him, maybe there's a pet rock sitting next to him when he wakes up, something like that. But basically, he deals with this. So you kind of find out a little bit about his history. You kind of find out a little bit about why he's there, but it's still pretty much a mystery as to what the Grey Rooms are.
Huh.
The last story I'm writing is called Everything Ends, and it's about Raymond's history. He's basically a man who's condemned to death. He's sitting in an electric chair in the 30s, and he's basically kind of going through. And the interesting thing here is he's actually living his own Grey Room. He's reliving his own death. So I'm exploring what it'd be like to die again in the exact same way. So it was pretty interesting stuff on that. And being that it's bi-weekly, with all the stories combined, I think it's going to end up taking us into May of 2019. So we're going to I'm going to be really busy.
So do you plan? So this does have there's an end game essentially.
Yeah, episode 13, the general storyline for Raymond is going to end. Okay. We have plans for season 2, and we'll be using a different central character. And actually, the scene of the Grey Rooms will change. We kind of thought it'd be cool if for every central character, the Grey Rooms kind of took a different appearance.
Huh. Okay.
So
no, I'm. This is an intriguing concept. I'm in.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Like I said, if you want to hear what it's like, these aren't just stories being read by somebody. There's a lot of podcasts that do that, and some are good, some are just you can tell this person's just trying to kind of learn as they go. Right. But these have sound effects in them. They have music in them. They're very cinematic as to how they're produced. Jason is a really good, not just good, he's great at sound editing, engineering, whatever you call it. So that's what sold me. He had actually taken one of those stories that are going to be one of our episodes and finished it. And when he was talking to me about it, he's like, let me just show you what this episode sounds like. And I listened to it, and I was blown away.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Pretty cool.
So how did you go about getting voice actors and everything to do this?
I think Jason basically decided when he started it that he kind of started asking around. He was asking around on Reddit. He was asking around on Twitter. And he had found a couple people. Graham Rowett is basically this guy has been kind of working as helping us cast different people. He's been involved in a lot of recordings for our own stories. He's been in video games like Grand Theft Auto 5 and BioShock 2, and he was actually recently in the season finale of Law and Order SVU.
Oh, wow.
He had a part in it. So I mean, he has actually helped with a lot of his connections and kind of his experience find it. He's been able to get us a lot of people that can kind of help us out. So we really are very thankful for him. Another guy that came into us was Warren Richardson, and he's a very deep sort of Barry White voice, I guess you can say. So you'll know, you'll definitely know it's his story when he has a part. So he was also one of the first guys that kind of popped in there to help us out. And those two guys, I mean, we have a shoestring budget, and
Right.
these people kind of said, hey, this is what I cost for however many pages and so on. And we're like, yeah, well, we have nothing to pay you for that yet. So, and they basically said, okay, you know what? We're really interested in this. This looks really fun to us. We want to help. So hopefully we'll be able to change that. We have a Patreon. I think there's about 10 subscribers last I checked, and which is pretty humbling when you think about it, because we don't even have a first episode yet, just trailers and that promo, and people are just, I mean, they're really enjoying it so far. So it's a good thing to be able to post that on a Friday at midnight, and then wake up in the morning and kind of see some of the positive responses we've been getting.
Right.
We're actually just started a contest for fiction writing. Two people that submit stories to us, we'll select. Let me back up there. We'll select 2 stories from what people have submitted to us for this contest, and one will end up the second promo that'll be that will basically broadcast September 7th. So that'll lead right into the Gray Rooms podcast in November. So somebody will pick a story for that, and then we'll pick a story for one of our Patreon bonus stories. Because if you subscribe, you will get to listen to stories a week early, and you also get to listen to some bonus stories that won't be released publicly for a while. So
cool.
There's all kinds of stuff going on with that.
So where is this podcast going to be available at? And more importantly, where can people go to watch your trailers and listen, catch all the previews and everything?
Well, the easiest thing, if you want to learn a little bit about it, is we do have a website, thegrayrooms.com. Gray is spelled with an E, so thegrayrooms.com.
Superior way.
The superior way. That's just like I say with my name, Brian. I say Brian is superior, and then, I mean, come on, it's the only way you can misspell his brain, right? I mean, that's
true. That's a good point.
So you can look at that. Our Twitter is at the Gray Rooms Pod, POD, .com. And then there's an Instagram for the Gray Rooms and things. But if you really want to follow us, you can check out the website. You can check out our Twitter. We post the links, and you can use iTunes. We're on iTunes. You can use Spotify. You can use Stitcher and different things. So pretty much whatever podcatcher I guess you're using. I'm not familiar with a lot of those terms, I guess, but
there are many out there now. So yeah.
So yeah, whatever you listen to podcast on, I think you're probably safe.
Yeah, I figure if you're on iTunes and SoundCloud, you can be found just about anywhere.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. So we, so that's what we're doing, and we got so right now there's 2 trailers and Falling.
And the official launch comes in November.
Right. There will be another, there'll be another promo episode in September, like I was talking about. So, if you want to kind of see what you're getting into, those will be some shorter episodes. I think when we get to episodes 1 and 2 and all that, they'll be probably around 45 minutes or so. Okay.
Very cool. Well, they will have to be a podcast that I listen to and not listen to at 1.5 speed, like I listen to all of my podcasts at.
Oh yeah, no, you don't want to do that.
They would kind of ruin the effect of the actors and everything. So,
and honestly, there's multiple. When he creates that sound bed, there's all kinds of things going, all kinds of layers. So you really want to use some good headphones or some good speakers. If you just listen to your phone speakers or something, I mean, you're going to miss some stuff. It's still going to sound great, but you really want to hear everything that's going on.
Very cool. Now, moving on from the Gray Rooms, do you have anything that's out there right now that people can check out?
No, mostly I kind of stopped writing for a while. I got really busy. I mean, I got married 2 years ago, and I was doing a lot of different things. And what I used to to do a lot, and I think it was almost kind of detrimental in a way, was I used to role play a lot. I used to run message board role playing games.
Okay.
And I'm sure somebody's there like, "No, man, you can't bash the role players." No, I'm not. I mean, it helped me a lot. I was writing every day and interacting with all kinds of people. But the problem I think is as a writer, you have that bug that you have to itch when you're writing. You know, you need to write, you want to tell a story. And I think when you start interacting with other people and you're only telling a fraction of the story, you're kind of hurting yourself, you know, because you're relying on other people to finish your story, essentially. Right. You know, I mean, you're like, "Oh, well, you know, my guy's cool, you know, blah, blah, blah. He's a sparkly vampire." But, you know, but the thing is, yeah, but that's just that tiny piece. And you're not really, you're contributing to it, but it's not something major. And when you want to write your own works, which I was doing, but I really wasn't getting them published or anything, you're sort of thinking, "Oh, well, yeah, here, let me go start on this novel. Oh, this is requiring a lot of work. I better go back to just, you know, creating my little world building and then just focusing on a couple characters in it." So I think in a way that kind of was detrimental to it.
I love that you actually just created an excuse for writers to be introverts. I hate people. Because by far the greater portion of the Twitter writing world, all introverts who are like, "People? Do I have to talk to them?" Which, I mean, honestly, I can understand. I mean, I go out and I interact with normal people, and it's like, this is relatively boring.
You just said normal people. I think we're normal. You know, I mean, I think we're all normal people.
Normalish.
Yeah.
I think it was, to be fair, I think it was, I don't know who it was. I want to say it might have been Einstein who said, like, normal is what you call people until you get to know them.
Yeah, that's very true. Your family is never normal because you know them better than everybody else. Right?
Exactly.
That's when you're sitting there at the dinner table with somebody that isn't part of your family, and you're thinking to yourself, "Oh God, I hope they don't bring that thing up." Or they don't. We just had that on the weekend. You know, my niece was talking about things, and as soon as some embarrassing stories came up, she started, you know, getting that face saying, "Here it comes. Here comes the family stories." You know,
right. It's like, oh no, just please, no, just make them go away.
Yeah, it's like those pictures that your family likes to show with the spaghetti all over your face when you're a baby. Right. You know, you know, the world doesn't need to know that stuff.
It's called blackmail.
Yeah, blackmail. There you go.
And now they just put it on the Facebook page for the world to see. So
yeah, you know, that's true. I wonder how a lot of them celebrities manage to bribe their families out of doing that. You know, see, Justin Bieber, you know, cramping his pants or something. You know, I mean, come on.
You know, I suddenly find myself thinking that there's a whole corner of the internet devoted to that.
Yeah, we got to look for that. That would
I don't think we do. I think that would be extremely, extremely detrimental to my mental health.
CelebritiesArerealpeople.com. Yeah, but you know, Stephen King is a great example of somebody who airs his dirty laundry. You know, when you read On Writing, find out so much. I love the one story where, you know, he has this ear infection, and the doctor multiple times, like I think 3 times, this guy has this really long needle and ends up like popping this, you know, this, I don't know what it was in the side of his ear.
Or something in his ear.
Yeah, and he's crying and screaming, and you know, but actually, if you ever listen to the audiobook for On Writing, it's Stephen King's own voice telling the story. So it's kind of cool. It's like you're sitting there with, you know, Uncle Stevie, and he's giving you, you know, these little stories and words of wisdom from his life. It's pretty cool.
Now, does he say that experience informed any of his stories?
I don't know if that one does. One of the more interesting things he said, because, you know, most people know he went through that stage when he was doing drugs constantly, and, you know, he was all messed up. He said he didn't remember writing Cujo. Now, you think about, I don't have a novel published, so that sucks. But when you think about it, this guy has written so many novels, and he can't even remember writing some of them. I mean, how
that's
crazy
pretty wild.
Is that?
That's pretty wild, especially Cujo I read that when I was quite young, and it still sticks with me even today.
Yeah.
Like I must have read. Honestly, I must have read that when I was like in junior high or like a freshman in high school or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, I look back and I read all kinds of things that maybe I shouldn't have. I don't know.
Well, that's pretty much how I felt. I was reading, actually my first novel was The Hobbit, my, adult novel. I was always reading little kids.
Oh, nice.
Stuff. But our teacher in fourth grade was reading that to us after class, or, a couple of minutes before class. And I kind of think now that might be a little risky, just because, some parents have kind of some, interesting ideas as to what kids should read and things. So the fact that she read us The Hobbit was cool. And what happened was, she never finished. We got to the forest of Mirkwood with the spiders and everything. Right. It was a great scene. It's a great, terrifying scene, especially for a kid. And it ended there because school was out. I probably would have went back to school for another 2 months just to find out what happened.
How do they get away from the spiders?
Well, you can watch that ugly cartoon. Oh, geez.
Oh, goodness. Yes. Down, Goblin Town we go.
Yeah. So my mom ended up buying me The Hobbit that summer, and I
nice.
read it. So from start to finish, and that changed my life. If it wasn't for a fourth grade teacher, who knows what would have happened? So,
who knows?
Teachers out there, you do have an impact on the lives of your kids, regardless of how you
choose your books well.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, I don't think you'd want to. What was that book about Charles Manson? Was it Helter Skelter? You don't want to read that.
No, not and probably not whatever the latest hotness is either necessarily, or the trendy thing, I should say, not necessarily the latest hotness, because that could potentially exclude Harry Potter, and I don't want to do that.
No, and that's the thing. I mean, young adult books are huge now.
Oh yeah, very big.
I mean, it's everything. It really is. I mean, you could pretty much stop reading adult books and just jump into adult fiction. You'll probably, but yeah. I just think to myself, when I was a kid, that was like an insult. I had a teacher one time read my short stories, and she said, I can give you a list of young adult stories that you might like to read. And I was like, a young adult. I'm 13. I don't need to read this crap.
Yes. It's part of that whole phase that everybody goes through. It's like, I'm too old, cool, and smart to read this stuff that's for kids.
I know.
And a lot of us eventually grow up and go, hey, you know what? This kid stuff ain't, it's not that bad.
No, absolutely not. It's funny because I guess I went through my snob years early. And now, then later on, I ended up starting to read, like the Hunger Games and stuff as I got older. One of the young adult books that I really did enjoy, though, were the Giver series.
I haven't read. I watched the movie.
Yeah,
and I found that entertaining enough, so I'm sure the book is better.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because I don't think when I was in junior high that I really grasped some of the things that were included in that story. Abortion and suppressing your emotions. I mean, I might have gotten maybe the surface of it, but as I read it as an adult, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this is some dark stuff right here.
A lot going on here.
Yeah. So,
that's so much. Hey, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Billy Owens, who's hanging out in the YouTube chat, eating his stir fry, and
he's eating stir fry.
Yeah, he posted that right after we were talking about rats in the trenches of World War One. He's like, I'm good. I'm real good here. I'm fine.
The downside about the stir fry is there's probably some cat in it, and there's nothing to eat those rats now. So,
fun story, actually. Well, mildly amusing story, I should say. As when I was in the Navy a while back, right out of high school, and one of our stops was in Hong Kong. And now I didn't see this myself, but some friends of mine split off, went with a different group and everything, told me later on that as they were walking around, they were outside they passed, of course, a Chinese restaurant, and there was, I kid you not, a cat on a leash outside said restaurant. They walked by later, same restaurant, same leash, no cat.
Ooh.
True story.
Dun, dun, dun. Wonder what happened to the cat.
Well, they didn't go in the restaurant, so they can't verify, but we can all guess. And I can tell you, I can also tell you this. I like Thai food, but I didn't have Thai food when I was there. You know why?
Why?
Because you could smell the Thai restaurants 3 doors down, and it was not a pleasant smell.
Ooh.
It was a really bad smell. I was like, oh, coming up at a Thai restaurant again. I was like, nope, not going in.
Not gonna do it.
Oh, no. So enough of that. Now the other thing that we teased a little bit earlier that you are known in the Twitter world for is the follower games.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for those who may not know what that is, please explain to us what this is, what this means. It's the deeper meaning of Follow Fridays on Twitter.
Yeah. So Follower Fridays, it's crazy because everybody does it, and it's a great thing. I mean, it really is. It's a way to get exposure. It's a way to just get recognized for, just being, I guess, for independent writers or indie writers, rather. It's more of a blessing. I mean, if you're just, tweeting regular things about your cats and pets and stuff, I mean, people love that stuff anyways. I don't think you really need it, but it is a way to get some good exposure.
Build a network.
Yeah, it really is. And writers love it. I mean, you see it constantly. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's interesting about me is I had joined Twitter in 2008, probably for something like NaNoWriMo or something, but I didn't use it. I didn't understand Twitter. I didn't get the culture. I didn't get anything about it. And I just didn't even do it. Somehow I ended up getting like somewhere around like 100 people that followed me. I don't know why they followed me. I didn't do anything. But for then years, I wouldn't join it. So I was sick in November and December and January, like constantly. I just got getting colds every winter. And I thought, you know what? Why don't we just check out Twitter? Because I was planning on writing a novel about a Wendigo in the horror story. And I did all this research. I even traveled to some small towns, along the river, because I wanted to kind of work on building, I wanted to do some interviews. I wanted to just focus on this fictitious town in this one area. And I wanted to, and then I got sick, and then I was sick for a couple weeks, and I was better, and I got sick again. And I went to the doctor. It was just, so I rejoined Twitter. Somehow I find all of these indie writers, and I sort of got into these groups of people, and everybody's talking. And then you see the Follower Fridays. And I joined in on it. I was nervous about the first Follower Friday because I had to have the perfect Follower Friday. You don't want to screw it up. So, you list your people at so-and-so, blah, blah. And then you do it the next week. And you do it the next week. And it occurred to me that who cares? I mean, really, I don't know who these people are.
Right.
Because you're telling me to follow them. Why? So, and that seemed to me a major flaw with the Follower Friday. And I liked it because I was just like following everybody in a list, and then they followed me back. And, so my numbers just went, and so I owe it a lot to that, to be honest with you. Because I think I have like over 2,000 followers now, and it's pretty cool. I mean,
but just a basic Follower Friday is pretty dry and impersonal.
Yeah, it's just hey, it's Follower Friday. Follow these people because they're great. At so and so, at so and so, at so. So then I thought about it. I don't know if I saw something or if I just did, but then I mixed it up a bit, and I thought I'm going to categorize these people. So I'm going to put the writers here. I'm going to put the I don't know, the artists here. I'm going to put the podcast people, whatever, And then I had an other. Who wants to be in the other category? Well, you kind of suck, but I mean, you're good and everything. So now that person's probably looking back at my history going, you stuck me in the other category. But,
you're basically telling me I have very little reason.
Yeah, just follow this guy because I feel bad for him, So, and if I did put you in the other category and you're listening to this, I really do love you. You're great. So I did that, and that was a lot of work, and it was kind of annoying. So the next week I thought, okay, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to go and I'm going to try to come up with just a goofy sentence for everybody. Just to, like maybe not, because I don't really know everybody that follows me, but,
Right.
So I'd be like, at Gingerman or editor or whatever. I'd be at Gingerman editor. He's got the reddest hair in the West or something stupid. Something goofy.
Something silly.
Yeah. He's the son of Sawyer from Lost. I don't know. But, something like that. And people, some people, because people ultimately like to hear their names mentioned. People like to have something attached to their name, even if it's kind of weird.
Right.
It's that ego we all have. We just want to feel like a part of something.
So everybody likes having a little affirmation in some way. Yeah.
Yeah. I took, 3 minutes to put a little sentence next to your name and you're happy about it. So that's cool. So I did that. So the next version of that became the follower games. Because I wasn't happy with that still. I wanted people to get involved, because what I realized was the whole point of the follower games was for people to interact with people, but it had that flaw in it because there was no reason to interact with people.
Right.
Because what do people do in the follower games? They just say, thank you, and a gif of like, a little child throwing confetti in the air or something.
Right. Right.
Or dancing, some person goes,
it's fun, it's cool.
Yeah, Kermit the Frog's waggling his little arms, yay,
but
thank you.
We do better?
Yeah, can we do better?
Yes.
And then the follower games. So years ago, I had found, I don't know if I looked it up on Google because it's kind of twisted, but I did. I found a Hunger Games simulator.
Right.
And it's not like it's a secret or anything.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. You see here, I'm just going to type in Hunger because it's Brant Steele, BRANTSTEELE.net. And they have a Hunger Games simulator. They also have simulators for Survivor and like all these other, you can reenact your own Survivor if you wanted to.
Oh, goodness.
And so basically, you can plug your friends in. And that's what I was doing years ago. I was plugging my friends in and making them kill each other because I'm a terrible person. I mean, who does that, And, I mean, it's pretty fun. And you can personalize it a little bit. I'm discovering more things. You can customize events and things now. Mm-hmm. But the big thing is you can take photos of people, put them in there and do whatever you want. So when I was doing the follower games, I thought, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to steal all their images on Twitter, 48 people, which takes forever, well, yes. I open up your Facebook page and I right click and I save that, the link for your photo. And then I paste it in there because I can't upload pictures. So it's not like I have a database of your pictures on my computer.
Right.
Throwing darts at them or something and laughing like a maniac. Although I might, you never know. You might end up in the gray rooms.
Oh, come on. You're a writer. All writers kill their friends in stories.
Yeah, well, it's other parents. I mean, sorry, Mom, if you're listening.
Or that.
Which is, so, yeah, I did that. I posted all their names on there, and I just kind of randomly did it. And I did not ask people for permission. I had no idea how this was going to go because I'm basically murdering random people. How would you feel about? I mean, well, I guess you would know because you were in it.
I did. I was killed by a lady who thought I was a squirrel or something.
Yeah. She like pushed you in front of them or something. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, I was either killed by someone who thought I was a squirrel or eaten alive by squirrels. I'm not sure which one.
You were a meat shield, is what you were.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, is this even illegal? I don't know. I'm just murdering these people. They're gonna think I'm horrible. Everybody loves it. Everybody was like, wow, this is so fun. They're following along. People that couldn't follow along, because what I do is it goes basically round by round. Mm-hmm. And I was basically using the Microsoft Snippet tool and Microsoft Paint and kind of like, throwing, because I can't show you the link. I don't think it works like that. Because if somebody else clicks next, then, all hell breaks loose, basically. So I have to just kind of like I have to take what's scrolling down on my window and basically copy and paste and copy and paste. And it takes a little bit of time, especially in the beginning. When half the people die, it's very easy. But in the beginning, when there's 48 people doing whatever, it's really tough.
Yeah.
So, so I'm doing this. I'm thinking, oh man, I hope people are patient with me. And I learned I'm like a master of like snippet and paint now over this, because in the beginning I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. So we did that. People loved it. People were very confused because I didn't really explain it that much. I didn't know what to explain. I'm going to kill you and you have nothing to do about it.
People are just, wait, what? I'm dead? Yeah. Why am I dead?
One of you will survive.
Is this like my Twitter account? What is going on?
Yeah. There can be only one, and you will win nothing except for the fact that you won.
Right. The knowledge that the simulator spit your name out at the end.
Yeah. You just randomly won. You beat the RNG god. So yeah, is it Ring God? They ever pronounce? I don't know if they pronounce it Ring or they just say RNG.
I don't know.
It's random, whatever it means. But yeah. So yeah, all of that good stuff. People like it. People that weren't online when it happened were messaging later on and saying, "Man, I wish you would have said something. This is cool." So then people started saying, "I want to be in this. I want to die. Please kill me.
Please kill me horrifically." Yes.
Yes. Kill me with squirrels and squash me with So I was like, all right. So I did it again. I did the second. And I said, this took so long. I'm never doing this again for another couple weeks. Next week I did it. And it takes about, if I don't do anything fancy, if I just throw it up there and do it, it's probably 2-3 hours.
Right. But that's not all you do.
No. Well, then of course, the problem with me is I'm like, man, all right, let's kick it up a notch. So then I thought, all right, this needs, because I'm a writer, and you start thinking like, man, because what I was doing was I was starting to do a little bit of play-by-play. I wasn't just like, this is what happens. I was starting to see little tiny patterns that would happen with these random January things. Or I would read comments, like some guy would be like, oh, I'm so happy I'm still alive. And then I click the next round and he'd be dead and I'd be cracking up. He doesn't know it. But yeah. So then I'd be like, blah, blah, blah. Or then I'd see some really boring things like one person might, for like 3 rounds straight, just it just says their character was sleeping, So I'm like, oh man, I got to do something about this,
Right.
So, or, characters say, people might, because they interact on Twitter with each other. Some of it's like, I'm going to murder you. I'm going to win. Or, oh, I sure hope you win. Or, boy, let's team up or something. They'll just say these things. It doesn't mean anything, but it's just fun. And so I'd see these, and then I'd see that person that said we should team up or I love you in real life, something, then they murder each other. And it's like, yes, so then I type in, it was the ultimate betrayal, or something. So, it was a good time. And seeing these little stories pop up, I thought, all right, we got to do something here. So then I came up with the theme, which was the one you were in with I said, you know what, let's do fantasy. That kind of makes the most sense for the Hunger Games. Right. I don't want to do dystopian, I didn't want to reenact the entire dark, hopeless, post-apocalyptic future thing. So yeah, we did that. And I thought, okay, well, now we got this like little world. And what I call it, like follower Mia or follow Mia or something stupid like that.
Yes.
And then I thought, you know what? I got 48 people. Why don't I make a little bio, of them? I'll just write a little tiny story, how they fit into this world. And so I'd start writing them, and then I'd start realizing that this little world I was building, okay, well, this guy's story kind of fits in with this other guy's story. So then I kind of tie them together a little bit. And I also kind of wanted to categorize, because part of the things with the Hunger Games was, and the way it's coded in the simulator, every district had 2 people, a man and a woman, or a boy and a girl,
right.
whatever.
Right.
And when I changed it to 48 people, it basically changed everything to now there are 4 people in each district, 2 men, 2 women. And I thought, all right, well, how do I explain this? because I didn't like districts. You know,
Right.
The second one I did zombies, and I changed the word district to like tombs or graves or something. I don't know.
Right.
You know, I brought back all the original people as zombies because the guy that won was a zombie. His name was Ned the Zombie. Won the first.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So then what happens is I thought, okay, I'm gonna break it down into like your typical, whatever like your job system is, like a Dungeons and Dragons type game or something.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have your wizards, and you're gonna have your bad guys. You're gonna have your rogues. You're gonna have your bards. You're gonna have this and that. So I had to come up with like 12 different categories, basically I thought, okay, well, I looked at your picture because that's what I do. I'm only typecasting people. I didn't, I looked at your picture. I thought, you know what, he should be a knight, and then I thought, no, I don't want him to be a knight. He's going to be the king. I had no idea. I didn't really even talk to you. I don't think really. You were just like somebody who followed me passively.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, this is King Eric, or you're a ginger. So I was like the Red King,
Oh, well, I mean, obviously. that writes itself.
Yeah. So I was like, sweet. And then, then we got to your wife and then we got to your kids. And man, I could not have planned it better. I mean, I laughed so hard when I saw how that turned out in that first round.
Oh, yeah.
It was ridiculous.
My son killed himself. My wife killed my daughter, and then tried to kill me, so I had to stab her.
How did you? What was your reaction?
Tragic, man.
I know. I mean, you had to be like freaked out by that a little bit. I mean, that was ridiculous.
Like, wait, what's going on? But apparently I rebounded quickly. So
yeah, it's true. The Queen of Castoria or something, whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
And she was like the bad guy of the whole thing. It was funny. So yeah, you guys definitely had a long run. If it wasn't for the squirrels, you would have.
If it wasn't for the squirrels, but those dang squirrels, man, I tell you.
And that's the thing. I don't know how. I never seen events before. The first 2 times I did it, there weren't any of those random events. So when the third one came up and I see like a volcano erupting, I was like, what the heck? I never seen that before. And I think that was around the time that Hawaii started erupting. So
yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, I hope they don't think I did this to like be funny, because that's such a tragic thing. It was
like, am I in a Twilight Zone episode and what I'm writing is actually happening? What is going on?
There's one guy who had already died, and I guess he, kind of thought, okay, I'm dead. I'll just catch up to this later. So he ends up leaving, I guess, and he goes and eats some dinner. And he comes back and he types on Twitter, "Oh my God, there's volcanoes now. I was only gone for 15 minutes." So that was then I saw the squirrel event and I just kind of raised an eyebrow.
Just like, wait, what?
Yeah. I was like, oh man, now I jumped the shark already. I could have came up with all kinds of crazy fantasy events that would make sense, but Squirrel Girl came, I guess.
What are you gonna do? Hey, you know what? As soon as squirrels are involved, you've jumped the shark. It's just whether people decide it's a good thing or a bad thing. Because Squirrel Girl. Anyway,
yeah, and the winner actually was the one that unleashed the squirrels on you. So there you go.
Yes, yeah. I couldn't decide based on what I was seeing and what I was seeing if she thought we were squirrels, if she was leading an army of squirrels. I couldn't decide exactly what was going on there, but.
Yeah,
squirrels were involved. And I had to jump in the way and save Queen of Castoria so she could die in the next round.
See, you were the good king. You were.
I was trying to be the good king.
You kept it up.
That's the way the random simulator put it out there.
Well, that was the thing. Like, I posted it in your bio as you were a just and wise king,
and it worked out well.
Yeah, right. And then your son was supposed to be this warlike, kind of like darker version of his father, and he kills himself like a coward. I was like, wow, that sucked.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I know. So it was funny. Now, the girl that won, May, I think her name is.
Yes.
She picked the next theme, which was film noir, which isn't exactly a I mean, it is, but it's not, So I was like, wow, that's kind of different.
It's not an action-packed genre as a rule.
Yeah, it's basically a lot of smoking and wet streets, and you know,
And horrible things happening.
yeah, pretty much. A lot of women in hats.
True, true.
Yeah. So I thought about it, and I wanted to do the bios again, but the problem is when I really started doing it, I got we had Memorial Day weekend, and like this week, my cat was real sick, and I had to take him to the hospital and everything. So I had so it's I'm working on it slowly because it takes a little bit to get these bios, because I could just write 48 bios probably in 2 hours if I didn't give a crap about it. But I want people to actually kind of fit in, and I do. It's sort of like a film noir America. At one point, I actually, to an extent, I actually took another passive follower who I've never interacted with, and I was actually writing a piece in his bio about how he was trying to get the director of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, because I figure film noir 50s, 40s, 50s. So he's trying to get the director for that, but because that director was atheist, the Jewish producers didn't really want to do it. And I'm like, oh man, this is getting too far. I gotta back out of this. I can't. I'm trying to make this like when does it become the follower games, and then it becomes this like weird semi-historical like treatise on whatever. I was like, no, we gotta back out. This is gonna be weird. So
you don't want it too true to life.
Yeah, we don't. And it's not as fun. I think really, if I was gonna, people want like maybe the Maltese Falcon, Casablanca mixed with Sin City or something. So,
right. Yeah, exactly. Maybe not Chinatown, because the way that ends, holy cow.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I saw the way that ended. I watched that movie for the first time a few years ago. Got to the end, I'm like, whoa, that's one of the most horrible endings I've ever seen in a movie.
Oh, I know.
Maybe the most horrible, actually. I was like,
I've seen some pretty crazy movies, but yeah, that did you ever see one? I don't really watch Japanese anime that much, but there was a time when that studio was it Studio Ghibli or Ghibli?
Yeah.
The Totoro people and Spirited Away, and
yep.
Well, for a while there, I loved all their movies. I mean, I still like them, but I saw one I hadn't seen before called Graveyard the Fireflies.
Oh, okay, and I've never heard of it.
It is the most depressing, soul-crushing movie you'll ever watch. It's horrible. I mean, it's basically about two orphans trying to survive World War II on their own in the wilderness.
Okay.
And you can pretty much guess how that goes.
Poorly.
Yes. For both of him and his little sister. It just destroys. I mean, I was crushed. Just to tag back into Billy Owens there, I would rather watch the Book of Eli like a million times. But yeah, that was crazy. It was definitely one of those ones I regretted watching.
Oh, wow.
Now I believe it or not, I used to feel that way about the Titanic though too. When it first came out in theaters, I thought, who would want to watch like 3.5 something hours or 4 hours? I don't know, it's something super long, basically to just watch what is going to happen anyways. And and freaking Rose won't let Jack get on that door, even though there's enough room for it.
I know. Oh, they would have like sunk or something.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think so.
Why don't you take turns?
Right, or do that? Yeah.
Oh man, this is funny.
It seems there would be options.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's like another one. Another of those movies where I kind of laughed at was the oh man, it's that M. Night Shyamalan movie with the they're like in a they're not commune.
The Village.
The Village, yeah. I kept joking around about it. I said, wouldn't it be hilarious if the filmmakers didn't see like a helicopter like flying overhead or something when they filmed this, and then I realized at the end of the movie that it's literally in the modern day, and I was like, oh, like, man, I kind of incidentally ruined it for myself there.
Yeah, you're like, but well, I love, excuse me, I liked the way they did that because you knew something was off.
Yeah.
Like right away. I'm like, wait a minute. Looks like a pretty modern suit those guys are wearing. And I'm like, okay. Now, if you go to the stereotypical ye olden times village,
mm-hmm.
the wives wouldn't be sitting there doing their knitting while doing while having the town hall meeting, the board of directors or whatever you want to call it. Right. I'm like,
yeah, they're very progressive over there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
And now I get it. Yeah, it's the wink he gives you towards the end, especially being the fact that he's the one that kind of like talks to him, I think, in that ranger shack or something, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yeah. Yeah, he's the ranger who hands the girl the medicine and stuff.
Yeah. Which, what's funny is that movie I remember being disappointed with when I first saw it. Mm-hmm. Because I think the problem with Shyamalan's movies are he put, at least the later ones, because the first ones were great, but the later ones that people kind of are about, I think because you have a certain expectation based on what they build, the hype for.
Right.
And when you discover that the story is a totally different story that kind of requires you to rewatch it afterwards, I think it ends up stronger once you know what's going on. Because now you're kind of like wrapping your mind around, okay, how does this make this ending? How does it, what are the secrets? Now, the happening he couldn't fix. I don't care what you did. That was just terrible.
But you knew from the trailer that was a flawed premise.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that happens is people lose their instinct of self-preservation. Okay, fine. Why does that make people walk off buildings?
Yeah. The plants told them to.
It could make you reckless. It could make you do stupid things. But just go, you know what? Come on, everybody. We're walking off the job and we're going to walk right off this building.
Mm-hmm.
That makes the way they set it up, it doesn't make sense internally. And I was like, no, I'm not done with this one. And then, I found out that sure enough, everybody who saw that movie thought it sucked.
Yeah. If you would have said that it was like radio waves or like a cell phone thing like Stephen King does with the book, right. Okay, fine. Maybe you're crossing wires in some of your brain or something, or, maybe getting some kind of brain chemical mixed up like the whatever. Fine. But trees,
even that I was kind of okay with. Like, okay, if you let's say he's starting with a Gaia premise, essentially. The Earth is one big organism, and it's like, you know what? I hate people. And my delivery mechanism for the plague is going to be trees. All right, fine. But from there, it's still got to make a certain amount of sense.
Yep.
Really, the most effective place for this, at least initially, is in the cities, where there aren't nearly as many of these trees.
Yeah, so, that's true.
Why does that make sense? I understand it's like go after the population centers first, but at the same time, there's more trees away from them.
I know. You would think the trees would be stronger outside of that, and then
you sure would. Maybe just require a certain population density.
Yeah,
that's what Mother Earth was after. It's like we get to a certain population density, we're fine.
And the other thing too is, how come it was all people? I mean, there are plenty of people. Like, if you're a woman or a man who owns a greenhouse, how come the plants are trying to kill you still?
Well, it's.
I mean,
the virus is for people, not tailored to specific. But if you want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs, man.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it seems to me like if you're going to target a specific, species, there has to be some kind of self-awareness there to do that.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're
Yeah.
You only be self-aware for a certain, I mean, I guess, I don't know, unless it's all like a big hive mind or something, and it's just
Right. I think that's the way the theory would have to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, suffice to say, just based on the trailer, I wasn't interested in seeing the movie. And yeah, that's I was confirmed in that by like literally every person who saw that movie.
Oh yeah.
Every review I read and everything was just like this movie sucked. And people I knew saw the movie were like, yeah, that movie sucked. I'm like, Shyamalan's done, man.
Yep. And then he comes up with the visitor, right? Yeah.
The visit.
The visit, yeah.
Which I haven't seen. It looks horrifying.
It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites. It's because you know why? It's hilarious too. It knows where it wants to go and what it wants to be, and it's not afraid to be like, "Hey, check this out. This is ridiculous."
Well, Devil was actually before that. A bunch of people trapped in an elevator, which I also haven't seen. But
yeah, I've never seen it either.
I need to. I don't know if it's off of. It was on Netflix. I don't know if it still is. I've got to check that out because it looked like pretty interesting. It was sort of the beginning of Shyamalan's comeback. Yeah, which has been, I think, cemented now with the success of Split.
Yeah, Split was really good too. I mean, then when you found out that it was tied into Unbreakable, it was. I think I literally like shouted in the theater and embarrassed my wife and friends because I loved Unbreakable. I mean, it was a great film.
It was an incredibly slow burn movie, very very slow, very bleak, but so well done. Yeah, and that is the one Shyamalan movie I've always wanted a sequel to. Not just because Bruce Willis is a superhero, because no, this is a completely different take. This is a completely different mythology. I really liked the world that he built in it, and frankly, I'm also curious to see, because back up just a moment. One of the things with Shyamalan movies, one of the reasons that up until Split there was never anything remotely resembling a sequel, is because the sequel would always be completely and utterly different than the movie it would be coming after. You couldn't do, you couldn't have an Iron Man and Iron Man 2 type scenario. You would, because after Sixth Sense, okay, now the kid knows that the kid is open with his mom that he sees dead people. He's found his purpose with he's found what he's supposed to do with this gift. And so the next movie isn't about him discovering and coming to peace with it. It's about, I don't know, he's got to help some dead person accomplish something. Yeah, which can almost become a movie that we've seen a million times.
Yeah, well, he could be like a paranormal detective, I guess.
Right,
or something, solving people's deaths or something. Or
the point is, it's a completely different movie.
Absolutely.
Same thing with Signs. Now all of a sudden we know there's aliens out there. Maybe there's some left on Earth. So what is it? Does it become an alien hunting movie?
Right. Well, no, because you just get your Super Soaker 500 and squirt them.
Right. Oh, I didn't say it'd be a difficult hunt.
Kids, get in the swimming pool. We gotta hide.
Exactly. And Unbreakable, obviously now it's like, okay, now that he has come to accept that, Bruce Willis's character has come to accept that he's this unusual individual who is unbreakable. And he literally has a nemesis. He has a comic book nemesis, for crying out loud, which they are now making a movie, Glass. Yeah, on that. And so what do you do with that movie now? How do you make it a superhero movie without making it a superhero movie? And even more importantly, the family drama ain't done, because he's still hiding it from his wife.
Yeah, that's true.
Who is
his son?
His son knows, but his wife is like, a pacifist who would definitely not approve of what he's doing.
Right.
So,
and I really hope they don't have the Beast capture her or something, and they make her try to talk out the other personalities and try to almost give therapy because of who she is. You know what I mean? I hope he doesn't kind of pull that stuff, because that's every single superhero cliche ever.
Because he could he couldn't do that though, because precisely because it's a superhero cliche.
Yeah.
Because you know what's the base mythology for the now the Unbreakable movie universe is that the comic books,
it follows rules.
Yeah, it's based on a certain level of truth. So you could easily make the argument that, or even for crying out loud, let's say Glass essentially recruits the Beast for his purposes, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, because he's really invested in the way in his interpretation of this mythology, so invested that he literally became the villain, and felt the need to find his hero antithesis.
Right.
He's so invested in it, he would do it exactly because it's a comic book trope. He would want to fulfill it.
Or does he kind of fit the role of Hannibal Lecter does in the first Silence of the Lambs, where he kind of becomes the one kind of teaching Bruce Willis, how to find the Beast, and he kind of goes into all the lore of villains in the past and what traditionally works out as, the kind of the hunt between good and evil and stuff. And
that could work too.
I mean, I picture the Beast. The Beast found, if Mr. Glass, he would tear him to pieces. I mean, he wouldn't stand a chance because he's so brittle. I mean, anybody could beat him up.
Literally, yeah.
Aunt May, the old Aunt May in the comics could beat up Mr. Glass. I mean, come on, So that's one way to. But I guess being that he's an evil mastermind that can cause trains to wreck and stuff without even being on them, I guess it does show that he's.
His weapon, like many of comic book villain, is his mind.
Yeah. I like how literal comic books have taken that too. Like the Brainiac, and you have like all those characters with like the gigantic noggin, the leader from Hulk. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which I'm disappointed, man. They showed the leader at the end of that one Hulk movie. They saw the guy kind of transform into that, and we haven't seen him.
Yeah, that's one Easter egg that they threw in there that we have not. That's never come to fruition, and I really wish it would. I hope, honestly, I really hope that somewhere after Avengers 4, they just decide to pull that thread. Like he's been lurking behind the scenes, waiting for his time, or something like that. And he breaks the Abomination out of prison, and they put together. I don't know what they put together, some weird version of the Sinister Six or something like that. I don't know, but whatever the Marvel equivalent of the Legion of Doom is.
Yeah. I guess they really don't have one, huh?
No, they really don't. They have a plethora of villains with secret societies and stuff. That secret underground organizations that you would think would eventually like fight each other.
Yeah,
turf or something.
but yeah, you got like Hydra. You got
Hydra. You've got AIM. You've got Mr. Sinister's. Whatever.
Yeah.
Basically, they all have some sort of secret
the Brotherhood of Mutants. The Brotherhood of Mutants.
Yep. The Hellfire Club.
Yeah. And then the Mafia. The Punisher. I mean,
Oh yeah. Plenty of Mafia. Plenty of Yakuza comes in with Wolverine, and of course you got the Hand.
Yeah, you got the Hand. Yeah.
Which comes in with Wolverine and Daredevil and all of that, and. Whatever Ultron does in his spare time, I don't know.
Just travels different dimensions apparently and gets reincarnated a billion times.
Again and again. But anyway, that's a whole nother thread. So actually, we are about out of time here. So, Brian, one more time, you've got the Grey Rooms coming up in November. There are previews available. There's a preview available now. Is that correct? Did I catch that right?
You got 2 trailers and you got a promo episode. It's start to finish. It's a full story. It's about I think maybe 10, 11 minutes of your time. So short and sweet. And and then I will be releasing another Follower Games. I was thinking about before doing a release. My only thing is now I'm starting to think maybe I should release the people in the Follower Games first. It'd probably save me some time. And maybe people can be like, "Hey, Mom, I'm in the Follower Games, yay!" But the other,
actually, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Announce the people that are in it like a week early.
Yeah, because that was the thing. Like when I did these bios, I was like, man, is anybody even gonna like really care, or is it, is somebody gonna be like, that's nice, and then just like move on,
Oh,
that kind of
they were so much fun.
Yeah, and that's what I hope people would actually read other people's bios, but not everybody would. That's just how people are. But the other thing is, once kind of the smoke clears a little bit with this Grey Rooms thing, I am going to have another short story that I'm working on. It's going to be published by a guy named Bo Chappell. He has a novel out called Year 47, and he's actually creating an anthology. Different writers were kind of creating little bits and pieces of almost like a prequel to his novel from, his book is Year 47. So we're writing different things that happened that led up to that.
Okay.
So it's a really unique universe. Basically, heaven and God dies basically in the story, and heaven and hell kind of merge with the earth. So there's this like crazy thing that's going on, and his book's really good. You can check it out on if you go to Amazon, you can find it. And then we'll be there'll be a really awesome anthology of people for that. And then with that, I do have my own namesake as a web page. I don't really publish it because or like kind of talk about it because I'm kind of working on it. But basically, I'm planning on having a online novel on there that I'll be releasing chapters on weekly once I can get some of these other responsibilities, trimmed down a little bit. So there will be a online novel on my website, and I just don't want people jumping on my website now and seeing it in construction. So, but in the future, if you check out brianblack.com, you'll see that I'm working on an online novel. And it's kind of a steampunk type story.
Okay.
Fun. It'll be, and it's dark, just like the rest of my stories. Sorry for Bill is Bill, right? That was eating his stir fry.
Eating his cats and vegetables.
Yeah. You start going out, meow, 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 meow. As he's eating it.
Oh, that's sweet. All right. Well, hey, thanks again, Brian, for coming on and educating us about the Grey Rooms and, of course, the origin of the extremely fun follower games. When you get to releasing the film noir version of that, I'm sure everyone will be looking forward to that. And follow Brian at Darth Chair on Twitter, me at Gingerman Editor on Twitter. And thanks for tuning in, and keep the coffee and keep the books handy.
Yep. Thanks a lot.